I'm live? I'm alive. They told me I'm alive,
Yep.
so I didn't know that. I went to sleep, so now I know I'm alive. All right.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, thank goodness.
So, am I on the show now?
Let me see. I don't know. Hang on. It says you're on. Give me a second.
Well, you're definitely on TikTok Live, that's for sure.
Hey, can you guys hear us?
But they can hear.
Yay! Hey guys, can you guys hear us now? Can you please drop?
I'm alive. I'm alive.
Go ahead, Sammy. Talk to your fans.
Hey guys, and I just found out I'm alive, so I'm gonna continue going on with it. We had again a shortage. Anna wasn't feeling well, so she's not here today. Just me and Amina
And Sterling.
and give me a chance, bro. and Sterling and so here we go today with the questions and stuff like that. And I'm not really prepared 100%, but I'm ready to go. Are you ready? Is there questions or?
I think we are ready. Let me just kind of go through here. You guys, thank you guys for tuning in and being very, very patient with all the little technical glitches that we're having. I want you guys to go ahead and drop questions, super chats, so that we can go ahead and read them off to Sammy. Sammy did not have any leftover super chats from last week, so you know, anybody who wants a shout out, anybody who has, what's coming up this week, Sammy?
What?
What do we have this week?
What do we have? I don't know. What do you mean by what do we have?
My birthday's on
Oh
Friday.
yes, it's Amina's birthday, so
It's a surprise party.
maybe we should switch seats. But it's Amina's birthday, and you know, we're gonna have a little party for her. I was trying to keep it a secret, but here I blew that. So that's why I was trying to make believe I didn't know. So
Okay.
yeah.
Let's jump into this. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Charles. Charles wrote in and he was like, hey, we love the show, and my great uncle was part of the Black Hand. Can you possibly tell me a little more about that?
Wow, the Black Hand was part of the Mafia for a while. We weren't too excited about it. It was low-level black guys, not black guys, black Hand Mafia guys who were shaking down guys, Italian guys in Italian ghettos. And they would go to the people's homes and put the Black Hand on the wall, on the door. And that meant, you know, you have to come up with some money, or we'll do a kidnapping, we'll kill you, all kinds of things. The Camorra was involved in that. It's just something I'm going to talk about on the history of the Mafia. I have to do research. It's a little bit before my time. It was in the 1800s, I believe. And we didn't like it. We were against it. We didn't like what they were doing. There were a bunch of guys who, low-level guys, basically, killers, and they were trying to shake down people in, like I said, an Italian ghetto, people who were broke, and they were pulling all these shenanigans. It really wasn't part of, it was part of the Mafia, but it wasn't part of the main Mafia. Didn't like it. They didn't like the reputation it was bringing. Amina, you did some work on it, right? For the history of the Mafia. Could you read some of it?
Yeah, let me pull it back up. I had it a second ago. They basically were, let me see. Let me pull this up, guys. Give me 2 seconds. And I lost it. I am so sorry, guys. Today is your typical Monday, right? So, well, basically, they were saying how it's from the Camorra, and they were in Italian ghettos, and that they essentially used, just as you said, letters with different symbols and whatnot to indicate kidnappings, murders, you know, if they're going to basically abuse anybody is what
They were shaking people down.
they were shaking people down.
Basically, and we didn't get along with it. We stopped it. When I say we, not me, it was way before my time, but even the Sicilian Mafia didn't like the idea of it. Nobody liked the idea of it. People themselves didn't like it. So we got away from it. But when I do the history of the Mafia, which I'm working on now, that's going to be part of the story. So I'm going to get in depth with that story and talk about it. But right off the top of my head, that's what I remember about it, what I was told. And it wasn't something that we were proud of. It wasn't a good thing. It was actually a bad thing. There was not only the black hand, they put symbols, a knife with blood dripping on it, all kinds of bullshit things to scare people. And that's not what we wanted, the Mafia. So that'll be part of the history of the Mafia. We'll talk about it because it's there. We're going to try and get into everything. I'm back with James Carroll working on it, and he's coming down this month. And we're laying out an entire situation on how we talk about it, how we film it, and everything else. So I like that question, but you know, that's as far as I really know about it right now.
Okay.
So I do know a little bit, but when we get to the history of the Mafia, I'm going to do a lot of research on it and talk about it a little further.
Okay. I'm going to have Sterling go ahead and read off a couple of super chats for you so I can get in this chat.
Thank you, Amina. So the first question is from Created for So Much More. They ask, Sammy, how do I go from non-associate to associate?
A made guy would have to take you under their wing, and you're an associate. A non-associate, you don't belong to the mob at all. An associate, you do belong to the mob. You belong to a made guy. The made guy answers to a captain, and the captain answers to the administration, and it's on record all the way up. If you're a non-associate, you're not in that category. An associate is in that category. Everybody in the so-called family that they're in knows who they are, who they belong to, and everything they do from that point on, because at one point you might become a made guy, a friend of ours, and so they really start to watch who you are, all your actions, everything. They find out everything about you, who your mother is, your father, your sisters, your brothers, you know, a whole bunch of stuff. So that's a non-associate, doesn't belong to the Mafia at all.
That was a very good question. We also have another question from Joey D'Angelo, who says, Hi, Sammy. Louis Caifman was on a show recently and was talking about you. Did you know him?
Louis Caifman was a guy who was a complete jerk-off. And he was around John Gotti. John Gotti used him, he was a Jewish guy, and he used him for money reasons, and he said that he was John's unadopted son. John Gotti, I remember, I didn't know him well. I saw him a few times. John Gotti used him to pay for John Jr.'s wedding. I don't know if he ever paid him back. His father, Caifman's father, passed away and left him a lot of money. He also asked him to pay for his lawyer during the Gotti trial. I don't know, because I left, whether he was paid for the trial, whether he was paid back. I know he did a show with someone, and I don't know what he said about me. I don't think it was too nice what he said about me. I didn't really know him that well. He didn't know me. He wasn't, really affiliated with the mob. John was using him for money purposes and stuff like that. He had no respect from the mob whatsoever. I guess, in his mind he did. In his mind he thought he was somebody big. But I don't recall too much about him. He was, an easygoing guy, a schmuck, so to speak.
Very well said. So Creative for So Much More is back with another question. Sammy, can you speak on Maddie the horse, Zorella, who was shot in the car with his wife?
Maddie the horse was shot in the car with his wife?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I know Maddie the horse was a captain in the Genovese family. He owned that Umberto's or whatever it was, seafood place where Crazy Joe Gallo was shot and then killed in front of. But he was a captain. He was a very powerful captain in the Genovese family. I met him in a number of different sit-downs. He seemed like a nice guy. It was very, very hard to understand. His voice was like he would say, he had a certain, I don't know what it was. Even the agents who copied his, he had bugs, he got caught on bugs, they couldn't even understand what he was saying. You know, he would like mumble all the time. He had a tremendous mumble. Like, you don't know what the fuck he was saying half the times. But I didn't know if he did that on purpose or that's the way he actually talked. But he was a good guy. He was pretty fair. He owned that seafood place on Mulberry Street in Little Italy. And that's where Crazy Joe Gallo was shot and killed. They reached him when they knew he was in that restaurant, and he gave them the green light. Go ahead, go in and do what you got to do. He knew there was a contract on him. He gave them their blessings, and they did it. So, like I said, there was a couple of sit-downs I had with him that were pretty serious, but I'm not going to get into all of that. It's too long of a conversation.
Very nice. Ryan Brown would like to know, how long were you an associate with the Colombo family? Did you know Leonardo Passafaro, Lenny Montana, who played Luca Brasi in The Godfather? He was Colombo's assistant in the 60s and the 70s.
No, I didn't know the guy, the actor. I didn't know him. I saw him in the movie. How long? When I was about 23 years old, I was an associate in the Colombo family. I eventually got transferred because of a beef. I think I went through that story a bunch of times in the Colombo family. And I was transferred to the Gambino family in 1976. I was 31, I believe, and I became a made member in the Gambino family. So I started off in the Colombo family. I stayed there until about 1971 or 2, and I was transferred over to the Gambino family. 4 years later, I was made in the Gambino family.
Gas Can Lip would like to know, Sammy, my Goombata, what is your preferred rubber contraceptive, aka raincoat brand? I dislike them because it is like eating accidental dog hair in your food. So I'm a brand shopper. Thanks.
Wait. I'm a little lost with that question, bro. You got to read that one again to me for me to answer that one. What did he say? What rubber?
He would like to know your preferred form of contraceptive.
My favorite, contraceptive rubber. The truth. When I was young, you didn't use them that often. When diseases broke out, you did use them. I wasn't a big fan of them. I don't remember the brand or anything like that. But that's personal. That's personal shit anyway.
That's too personal.
Yeah, that's a little. Yeah, that's a little too personal.
That was a good question. All right, DVE 8356. Did you rub shoulders with Fat Pete? It seemed like he really got screwed over by the Lucchese family.
Fat Pete was what I believe the Lucchese family. That Fat Pete. Oh, that Fat Pete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Pete. He was. I knew him well. He was a big, tremendous guy. He was a huge, 300-something pound guy. He did get screwed up with them. He became an informant. he didn't become they thought he was an informant, he wasn't. And they went to kill him. He was involved in a shootout. He was hit 11 times, I believe, 10 or 11 times, and he didn't die. And he shot other guys. They were shooting back and forth. They couldn't kill him. And he survived, and that's when he became an informant. When he went to the hospital, the feds came in, and he turned. He became an informant against Gas Pipe and the bosses and everybody in the Lucchese family. And he wasn't a bad guy, and he was very close with Gas Pipe for a long time. I don't know what the breakup was, and they had problems. So that's who he was.
Frank Logan asked, had you been the boss, what would you have done differently than John or Paul?
I think I would have been a little more low-key than John was. I think I would have been more favorable to the tough guys rather than the earners, the gangsters rather than the racketeers. I mean, the gangsters, the tough guys go out and do work. You have to give them a fair share. They might not be the best earners in the world, but that's what you, as the father of the family, you have to take care of the whole family. When you're interested strictly in the racketeers who are bringing in money, I get that picture, but it's wrong. And that's one of the mistakes Paul Castellano made. So I would be different than that. I was a gangster. I was one of the guys who was sent out to the street, and I was the guy. I did earn under Paul, but a lot of guys didn't, and that was a mistake he made. John Gotti was super flashy and burned up everybody by doing that. By doing that, he caught the attention of the Southern District, the Eastern District, the state organized crime, the federal organized crime, the DEA, because of the drugs that Angelo and them, they all got caught on tapes with drugs. They both had, I wouldn't have done either one of those things. So I think I would have been more suited for a boss, but I never looked at myself in that position. I really wanted Frankie the Chico to be in that position because that's exactly what he was. He was, he would have looked at the gangsters in a different light. He's not a business guy, but he would have been fair with people. He was always for the underdog. So my thought was that he should be the boss, not me. But if I was, your question, if I was the boss, I think I would try to be more like Frankie the Chico than Paul or John.
Ryan Brown is back with another amazing question. Sammy, any chance I could get an autographed baseball for coming in the clutch with the Westchester Premier Theater answer last week?
So this guy's great because he just shook me down for a baseball. He don't want to pay for it. Take his name and say he's right. He's right. He saved me last week. Give him a baseball. Send it to him. No charge.
There you go, Ryan. Do you have my email? Throw it in the chat. Tell me if you have my email or not. If not, I'll drop it in the email for you. In the chat.
Thanks, Ryan. Sutan says, Sammy, you ever deal with Whitey Bulger?
Yeah.
Is that how it says? Oh, Whitey Bulger. What do you think about him?
I think he was a degenerate. I found out, I never knew him. He had a girlfriend, and he actually started going with a daughter. I think she was 15 or 16 years old. Eventually, on his crew, he passed her around to all of them. And when she finally was exploding and about to say something about it, he killed her. He killed guys. He was a rat from the day he was born. He was a confidential informant. They allowed him, the government, to run around and do all those things, and they knew what he was doing because he was giving up mafiosos one after the other. So they were getting information. He got caught. He went to prison. He was killed in prison. Even before he got caught, the government told him, that the government was going to come after him. They had to. And he went under lamb for about 15, 16 years. He ran away with his girlfriend. 16 years later, he was on a most wanted poster and a film on television, and somebody saw his girl's face, and they saw her in a beauty parlor. They called up the feds. They said, wow, this woman goes to our beauty parlor. They came down. They eventually got him. As soon as he got in prison, the guys in prison killed him. He was a fucking lowlife. He wasn't Italian, he was an Irish guy. And he headed an Irish crew, basically. And that's what he was doing. He was giving up mob guys, and they allowed him to run around and do all the crazy shit he was doing. Matter of fact, the agent he was dealing with went to prison as well when it all came out.
Il Gato says, Sammy, salute. Explain honor, and why do you think today nobody talks about it?
Honor. Honor is part of respect. Honor. You know, what kind of a person you are. If you live by your word, you have respect by people, you're honored. And it's not around today, and it's in so many forms that loyalty and honor and respect, I think it's something that's going out the window. People are interested more in money and power and stuff like that. And that's why this thing has deteriorated. The Mafia has deteriorated. And I even find around me that there are people, men and women, who really don't have a tremendous amount of respect and honor. So I guess that's the times have changed things, and it's a shame, because those are the most important things in life. You could have everything under the sun, money-wise, cars, clothes, jewelry. When you don't have any honor or respect, or loyalty, I don't think you have anything. So that's what honor is to me.
That was very well said. You know, our best friend is back, Gas Can Lip. Sammy, my Gumbada, my good friend Gary's father just passed away. Can you please give Gary Zabransky a shout out and a double condolences? Thank you.
Hey Gary, listen, I sympathize. I lost my mother, my father, I lost two of my sisters. I lost my brother and sister before I was even born. But my condolences to your father. And he's hopefully, I don't know how old he is, but he's probably up in age. I hope he's in a better place. And that's all we can wish for. And remember all the great times you had with him, the love, all the shitty times, push them out. Then they're not important no more.
Created for so much more. Sammy, how did the agents finally bug the apartment upstairs in the club? They say they had a difficult time.
They did have a difficult time. When I cooperated, I talked with them. I never found out there was somebody around John who told what happened. The club itself was bugged. We knew that, so we were very careful about how we talked. Every once in a while, John would go in the back, out the back door, and into a hallway. And they would hear that, he was talking, and all of a sudden his voice got lower and lower. They heard a door open and close. And somebody told them he was going in the hallway. He was going out the door into a hallway. They bugged the hallway. And on the bug, they heard footsteps of him and somebody else going up the stairs to the second floor. And they realized he must be in an apartment. The apartment, they kind of had somebody cooperating with them. And another thing was a maid guy lived in that apartment with his wife, old guy. He died. The wife was still alive. The guy Norman, who was the coffee boy, it was his aunt. So John would tell Norman, give her some money, let her go shopping, and I'm going to use the apartment. They went in at night and burglarized the apartment and went in when she was gone and bugged the apartment. And that's where he got caught with the notorious apartment tapes.
Wow. Pizza Dave. Hey, Sammy. I'm born and raised in Marine Park, Brooklyn. I still live here. The storefront car services back in the day, were they mobbed up?
Most of the car services were. You know, a lot of guys got people, put together a car service, and most of them that I knew were pretty well mobbed up. I'm sure there were some legitimate ones, but most of them were mobbed up.
M. Driver, 1981. Hi, Sammy. How did Michael Corleone become Don without being a made man?
How did Michael Corleone become John without being a made man?
Become Don without being a made man. Don.
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 You're talking about Michael Corleone in the movie?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a movie, and it's impossible to become a Don if you're not a made man. The first step of belonging to the Mafia, period, is an associate. But the most important one is when you burn the saint in your hand and become a made member. The next position is a captain or a caporegine. Above that is the administration, the boss, the underboss, and the consigliere. I was a consigliere for a while. I was the underboss for a while. I was never the boss. But without that, level of promotions, you're not going to become a Don. It's impossible.
Robert Sullivan says, is it true in 2018 when Gene Gotti was released from prison, the Gambino family was worried he would come back and draw too much attention to the family?
I think that was something that the newspapers and the government hyped up. I think it's all bullshit. Gene Gotti was a good guy, did a ton of years, 30-something years straight. I'm sure he went straight home to his family. He had enough of prison. He wasn't coming back. He probably just wanted to live out his life and enjoy it with his family. He wasn't coming back. But that was a hype that the newspapers and the government created, that this is going to happen. Just like I think once or twice I heard a rumor that I was coming back to New York to take over. That's all hype bullshit. I would never do that. I'm sure Gene is not interested in going back into the Mafia. He's had it. He's done.
DVE 8356. It has to be 90 degrees in Arizona now, so what's up with the coat in the fireplace?
Hey, I keep the studio at 68 degrees, so.
It's all for the aesthetic.
Right. I have air conditioning. However hot it is outside is not in here. Like she says, I got a jacket on because I was freezing my ass off earlier. So it was 68 degrees, and the fireplace doesn't throw off any heat. It's nice and cool. It just gives the ambiance of a fireplace and the bull behind me. So it's a studio.
It's cozy. It's like a story time,
Yeah.
Gas Can Lip. Sammy, if you worked for the United States as our president and you had to sit down with Putin, what body language and human chess moves would you use out gangster to him and gain the upper hand?
Listen, I believe that Putin is a gangster. And I believe that gangster to gangster, I believe Trump has a little bit of gangster in his ass. And I believe those two sit together, gangster to gangster, and they make rules. They're fair with one another, and they come to make rules and amongst each other. They don't take advantage of one another. When you have a weak president like you have now, Putin would try to take advantage of him and would easily take advantage of him. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with Putin being a gangster. I think he's pretty honorable. I think he's very sound in his head. Listen, we almost admitted that we blew up his pipeline. That's a big thing. That's tons and tons of money going from Russia to Germany in this pipeline. And we almost admitted it. And he didn't do anything. So thank God he's a gangster. He could have done something and maybe went up into World War III with nuclear weapons and everything. He didn't do that. I think another schmuck would have been there, a guy with no brains. Maybe he would have retaliated. So thank God that Putin is a gangster and used his head and didn't do anything about it. I'm sure it annoys the fuck out of him, and I'm sure he would like to do something, maybe not a war over it, but he may do other things to us, not a war. And thank God he's like that. I think he's on the right page with the war in Ukraine. I don't think, why would he like that on the border, Ukraine is going to allow tanks, missiles, and everything pointed at his country? It's not 1,000 miles away. It's in his backyard. It's on the border. It's 100 feet off of his land. So he didn't want him to do that. He didn't want him to join that thing. What's that thing where they all the countries join together?
What thing?
Your sister's thing, huh?
United Nations?
No, never mind.
What?
They joined this here, and you know what I'm talking about. So he fought it. He's been fighting it. He's been pretty level-headed that we're sending billions of dollars, sending war equipment against him, and he's been pretty level-headed about it. I mean, he's fighting them, but you think this is a good thing for him? We're sending billions of dollars and tanks and equipment to fight his people? But he's level-headed. I think he's pretty level-headed, to be honest. I think he's a gangster, and I think he's using his head. Thank God.
Sammy, everyone on TikTok says it was NATO.
NATO. Right. He doesn't want NATO on his front porch. He told that to the head of the Ukraine, the president, and yet he insisted on joining, and that's what started that whole war. It would be like NATO wants to come on our border in Mexico and put tanks and missiles pointed at the United States. Would we accept that? The answer is no. So why would he accept it? So the whole war's got me confused. The guy who's the president of Ukraine was a fucking comedian who became a president. He played the piano with his dick. He thinks that's funny. And that's for a president to do that? And he's been buying houses and multi-million-dollar homes all over the world with our money. I mean, this is a complete joke, this whole thing. We have so many people suffering in our country, and yet 50, 60 billion at a time is being sent to him. Why ain't we helping our people in our country? We don't have enough money, but we could send 100 and something, 200 billion over there to fight Russia. For what reason? To antagonize them? To create a war? I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Ryan Brown is back again and says, I believe Pete Chiodo took a 12-year plea that infuriated Gaspipe Casso. He said he was going to flip before he actually did. He also had Pete's uncle killed and tried to kill his sister.
Exactly. When he did flip, he sent a team of guys to kill Pete Chiodo's sister. We do not kill women because somebody cooperated. We don't do that at all. He did that, which was a total disgrace. Thank God she did get shot in the neck, I think, and she didn't die. And you're right, he killed Pete Chiodo's uncle or somebody, but Pete Chiodo didn't rat until he did all those things to him and turned on him and sent some shooters to shoot it out with him. Then he cooperated. Now, I'm not for people who cooperate, even though I did. But I never was. But you have to listen to people's stories when you call them a rat. Pete Chiodo is called a rat. Is that a rat? When you do that to somebody, you're almost, I don't look at Pete Chiodo as a rat, even though before I cooperated, not just because I cooperated. You have to listen to the story before you open your mouth, calling people things. But these are the things that happened to Pete Chiodo. I don't think he deserved that. He was taking a plea. You didn't want him to take a plea, so you're going to kill him? And then you're going to shoot his sister because he's got, I mean, I could understand why he cooperated.
Before you get more into super chats, Sammy, can you give a couple of shout outs real quick to Jamie and or Bonzo? He says, say hello to my beautiful wife, Georgie. We've been married for 32 years.
God bless Georgie. You put up with this guy for 32 years. You deserve a medal. I'm going to put up with him now.
And then iPrince says, hey, Sammy, can you please send a special shout out to my future wife, Maisha? We're getting married June 29th.
That is so nice. Manisha.
I think it's Maisha.
Maisha?
I think so.
All right, Maisha, good luck. And if you need me as a second choice, good luck. No, all kidding aside, good luck with your wedding and your future life. You know, every strong man has a strong woman behind them. And I hope the two of you are strong and help each other. Don't fight. There's so many divorces, so many problems I hear. Don't do it. Love each other and be behind each other. And like I said, Manisha, be a strong wife behind your husband 100%. That's what men look for more than anything. You know, we look at everything, but we want that. We want people who are strong and behind us, and we love them 10 times more for those reasons.
Renee Frizzle has such a sweet comment to tell you, Sammy. She says, Sammy, no question, just a shout out to you. Your podcast was the best series I've ever listened to. Thank you for your detailed insight into your life. What a time to be alive. You rock, Sammy. Mwah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You know, I was in the gym today. I was taking a jacuzzi. There was a guy in the jacuzzi with me, a Jewish guy, and I forgot his first name. I remember his last name. It was a Jewish guy. And he says he loves my podcast. He's moving to New Jersey and this and that and the other thing. And he said, before I move, could I come down? I'm right in the neighborhood, right near your office, and have a cup of coffee and see your office. And so I said, sure. You know, so many people stop me now. They love the podcast. And that was, you know, I bumped into James Carroll years ago. He's a great guy. He's a great friend to me still. We're going to be working together again on the history of the Mafia. And me and him, we created magic with it. And it was just as much him as me talking and telling stories. And we had a great time doing it. And I'm so happy that so many people enjoyed it. I think right now we have 114 million views who watched it, you know, and we get great comments on it. And I'm so proud of James and myself. We really, and we worked hard on it, you know, to make it as good as we can. So, but James Carroll deserves a ton of respect. You know, he was the guy who pulled those stories out of me talking, and we did a great job together. We had fun doing it too.
No question or comment from this individual, but Gino Travline is winning for Super Chat right now. So, woo! Thank you.
Shout out to Gino.
Thank you, Gino.
Sutan says, Sammy, did you know Louis Eppolito and Stephen Caracappa, a.k.a. the Mafia cops?
Yes, they were two dirty cops who not only were taking bribes, but they were killing people for the Mafia. They were working with gas pipe. There quite a few people they killed. There's a book about it. My friend Tommy Day, who's a cop in NYPD, he was the guy, I think, who investigated it and took and busted them. When they went to prison, that Lou Eppolito wrote a book, and they used that book against them, and it came out. They're going to make a movie about it. They're talking to me about if I can move it for them and make the movie. I'm reaching out, and I'm, you know, to people I know in Hollywood, and I'm going to try and do that movie for them, with them or for them, or, you know. And I have part of the story. I do know a lot about the story, what Castellano thought about them. of what John Gotti thought about them. So the cops know their version of it. I know another version of it. So I'm slightly involved in it. So yeah, I think they both died now. I think they both died in prison.
Hello again, Gas Can Lip. Any plans to go on the Joe Rogan podcast at all, Sammy?
Oh, give him a call. I would love to go on. I think the world of Joe Rogan. I would love to be on his show. I got in touch with him, people who I know talked with him, and he says, I'd love to have Sammy down the road. He has a list of about 40 people, that he's in contract with, that he'll talk with before he can get to me. But I would love to be with him. If you know him or you're one of his followers, tell him, have Sammy on the show. I break his balls, I tell him everything. Joe, I'll have you come here and do the show.
Joe Rogan, call us.
Yeah, give us a call. So.
Hey, Sammy, real quick, can I just give some quick shout outs to everybody in the chat that's giving me happy birthday wishes?
Shout out to everybody because she's the best. Amina's the best. She's really, really good, really loyal. When this is over, she's got a grin on her face from ear to ear. She loves you guys. She loves the comments. And she's not dating nobody. Forget about it.
Why are you putting my business out there?
All right.
Wait, hold on. Okay, I just want to give a quick shout out. Jay Marie, El Gato, Francisco, Danny Murphy, Larry Fishkind, 48 Grizzlies, Salvador Marley, Kenya Diaz, Sean McPeak, Nick Tyrone, Carrie Post, Don Dermody, yes, Jimmy, Maddie Hemmings, Xavier James, Michael Ferrara, Third Coast, Christian Cork. I see all of you guys, and I appreciate all of you guys, and I want to thank everybody for always engaging so well with Sammy and being so kind and respectful in the chat. You guys keep up the good work. Sammy, there's a couple questions that are not in the super chat, but I'd like to ask. At Get Jude says, do the Italian and Sicilian families work together now?
Italian is our heritage. Sicilian is part of the country where we come from. The Sicilians, the Romans and every other part of Italy, they had money, they had success. The Sicilians were peasants. They were farmers, fishermen. They were peasants, basically. That's where you get the Sicilian diet. It's peasant food. It was pasta with vegetables or something like that. They couldn't afford, like in my house, having steak growing up, it was like a big deal because it wasn't a normal thing. And we ate, the Mediterranean diet, they call it. It's not a Mediterranean diet. Sicilians, that's what they ate, was pasta and stuff like that, inexpensive food. So they're one and the same. They're all Italians. But Sicilian had their own dialect on how they talk, number one, and how they lived, number two. It was totally different. Sicily is where the Mafia actually started because when they wanted to invade Italy, Rome was too powerful. They would bring all their ships to Sicily. It didn't have an army. It had a small police force, 300 people on all of Sicily. So they could bring their ships, drop their men, ship after ship after ship, until they would have enough strength to try to attack Rome. And during those periods, they raped the women and did, a lot of bad things. And so that's how it started. It started as clans underground fighting for themselves, fighting for their women, and it became the Mafia. So that's where the whole thing, as far as the Mafia started. That's why Sicily became, very important to Italy and the rest of the world.
Okay.
Doberman Ray, did you ever eat at Pelusi's restaurant?
Who?
I think it's Palucci's.
Palucci's restaurant?
In New York?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. The name sounds familiar, but I'm not sure.
We have another question from M Driver 1981. Hi again. I have an uncomfortable question to ask. Do most men in Cosa Nostra cheat on their wives, or is it just a movie thing?
I think it's just a movie thing. I don't know about another wife. Most Mafia guys had a gumata, which wasn't another wife, which was a girlfriend, so to speak. There is some guys who went overboard with this, and they had actually 2 wives at the same time. It happened. It's very rare. We're against that. Basically, you know, I'm going to tell you a story, a real quick one. My guy, Tato, he was my captain, and he had a gumata, Rosie. And he was in an Italian neighborhood restaurant in Brooklyn, New York, and he was sitting eating with Rosie. In came Carlo Gambino with about 3 or 4 guys and sat at a different table. And back then, you didn't recognize him. You didn't buy him wine, your bottle of wine. You didn't wave. You didn't do anything. You just looked eye to eye and nodded your head a little bit. One guy got up from the table from Carlo Gambino and came over to Tato and said, "Hey, Tato, how are you?" Shook his hand. And he says, "Is this Rosie?" "Yeah." "Oh." He said, "Go sit in that empty chair," which was right next to Carlo Gambino. And he sat down, keeping Rosie occupied. When Tato sat next to Carlo Gambino says, "Is that your gumata?" "Yeah." "What's her name?" "Rosie." "She's a very pretty girl." "You bring your wife to this restaurant, don't you?" He said, "Yes." He said, "What do you think these people say when they see your wife and you, and then they see your girlfriend and you?" He says, "Oh, no, they'll not say nothing." "No, of course they won't. They're afraid of you." "But what do you think they say to each other?" "Oh, how much prettier Rosie is than his wife," or whatever. He said, "I never looked at it that way." He said, "Do you love your wife?" He says, "Of course I love my wife." And he said, "Do you love me?" Carlo Gambino asked Tato. And he says, "Of course I love you." He said, "I hope you don't love me like you love your wife. Go sit with Rosie." Meaning that you didn't show your wife any respect at all by doing this right under her nose. And that's guys in the Mafia who had a wife and a second wife, a second family, so to speak, kids and all. And that's one of the most disgusting things you can do. You could have a girlfriend and you could do what you want. But when you do the 2 of them, which one is more important? Which one? You're totally disrespecting the first one by doing that. And it's not so much of a disrespect of a girlfriend or a gumata, so to speak. Once in a while you go and get laid, excuse my expression. But it's another thing to have a complete another wife. So that's a Hollywood thing, but it did happen to some people. And but it's not really something that we approve of. Paul Castellano had an affair with his maid. So strong that when the wife asked the maid to do something, she says, "I'm busy, do it yourself," which is totally disrespectful. And a lot of guys didn't like that, what he was doing. You know, he had so much money. If you want a girlfriend, go get a beautiful girl, go buy a house in New Jersey, put her up, go see her once in a while. But to do it right under her nose, it shows a total disrespect of not only your wife, but of yourself. What kind of man are you? So, but most of that shit in Hollywood, some of it is made up.
Aussie Wolfhound. Sammy, did you know Carmine DeBias, the guy who believed to be the trigger man on Joey Gallo?
The trigger guy on Joey Gallo?
Mm-hmm.
What was his name?
Carmine DeBias.
I think it's Carmine.
Carmine? Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm not sure. I know he got shot in the place, and then he came out. When he came out and staggered out into the street, another guy was out there. It may be this guy Carmine, and shot him to death. And I don't know if it's him. I don't know the guy who did that myself.
J. Marie just wanted to check in on the boss and happy birthday, Amina. Kisses. Woo! 48 Grizzly. Hey, Sammy. Cheers from Tucson.
He just wanted to give you a shout out, Sammy.
Who?
48 Grizzly.
Oh, 48 Grizzly. Thank you so much, bro.
We have a question from Francisco Horna. Francisco says, did the mob have any dealings with the KKK?
No. No. You know, going back a long time ago, they made a movie out of it. Greg Scarpa Sr. was an informant all his life. And there was a couple of guys went down to argue to the KKK about hanging black people. He went in support of the black people, and they disappeared. And the FBI investigated, couldn't find out where they were. They grabbed Greg Scarpa Sr., who was a very dangerous guy, go down there and find out where they are. Help us do this. And he did. He went down there and he got somebody in the KKK, stuck a gun in his mouth and told him, tell me where these fucking guys is, I'll kill you. One of the guys says, you're not going to shoot. You're an agent. He said, no, you got me fucking mixed up. I'm not an agent. I'm a gangster. And if you don't give me where they are, I'll fucking kill you. So there was that. It was the name of a movie. It was made once. So there was no hookups between the Mafia and the KKK. We're not a racist group. We did a lot of dealings with black people. They were friendly with us. There was a lot of drug dealers and people, numbers and people like that we did business with. We were not racist. We did business with a lot of people, Irish people and Mexican people. That's not our thing. So we had no interest in the KKK at all that I ever heard of in my life.
Il Gato says, who was the trigger guy for DeMeo and how did he die?
DeMeo? Mm-hmm. The trigger guy, there was two of them. The twins, they called them. Roy DeMeo's guys. A deal was made, we told this story once before, a deal was made that there was a contract on all of them. Frankie DeChico made this deal and told the twins, kill DeMeo, we'll take the contract off of you, and we'll put you in another family. These are the guys, the twins, they're just both getting out of prison after almost 40 years, 35 years. They killed him, and eventually I was at a funeral parlor when they brought one of them in, and we transferred them over to the Lucchese family with gas pipe. So they lived up to their word, we lived up to our word, and those are the guys who killed Roy DeMeo.
All right, Sutan says, did you know what happened with Jimmy Hoffa and why? How did you like the movie The Irishman?
I wasn't crazy about the movie The Irishman. I think it was all Hollywood. A lot of it I don't think was true. It was well done as a movie, I guess. But to me, I wasn't crazy about it. What was the other part of that question?
How did you like the movie The Irishman?
No, I just answered that part. The other part.
What happened with Jimmy Hoffa and why?
Jimmy Hoffa got killed. He was running the truckers, the union, and he got in trouble and he went to prison. The mob put somebody else in his place, and he did a good job. When Jimmy Hoffa came out, he wanted to take over the union again. Legally, he couldn't. They told him, you can't, but you always did a good job for us. Stay behind this guy, help him with the union, and when whatever money comes down, we'll give you a nice end, and we'll take the other end. Let this guy run the unions. He said no. He wanted to run it himself. It went back to the mob. A contract was put out to get rid of him. He got killed in Ohio. There's all kinds of stories of where he was buried and stuff like that. I saw the movie that the guy drops the gun on top of him. I doubt if you would do that. Nobody would do that. That's Hollywood. I don't believe that. And they said they brought him back to New York. Nobody would do that either. If you sent me to Ohio to kill a guy, I'm not going to put him in a trunk and drive back for 4 hours to what? To show you he's dead? There was mob guys in Ohio. They probably put him in a farm somewhere in a hole. So nobody knows because they never found him. And whoever knows and digs him up now would probably be worth a fortune because that's a question everybody wants to know. Where is he? So whoever did it is probably dead by now. That's an old secret that'll probably never come out.
JB Welp says, what was Tony Duck's reputation as a boss? Wasn't he a boss for a long time?
Tony Ducks was a boss for a long time. He was a good guy. He was a good boss. He ran the family good. When he got in trouble, that's when Gas Pipe and Vic Amuso took over. And it fell apart. Gas Pipe was another guy who came literally close to being a serial killer, was killing all kinds of people. Tony Ducks ran the family, ran it good. I didn't know him well. I did have a few meetings with him. When they did the Concrete Club, Paul sent me down to a meeting. He was one of the guys in the meeting. I liked him. He was a very courteous guy. Wasn't type of a bully type of guy or anything like that. He was very easygoing. Again, he wasn't my boss. I didn't know him as a boss. I knew he was a boss, but he was a good boss to a lot of people. They loved him, but he went away and then he died in prison.
El Gato says, happy birthday, Amina, Bella. That's so sweet. Aww. Matthew Soto, who killed Mikey Scars' brother?
That's not something I'm not going to answer. But what I'm going to do a video about that situation down the road, because it involves a lot of things more than that. But I'm gonna do a whole video about it down the road. So I don't want to answer that question.
Ooh, mystery. Stay tuned, everyone. Mr. Sahalin says, hi from Finland. Russian mob came here only in the cops' daydreams to get more budget, but here criminals talk too much. You're not on tape. How did you do it?
That I'm not on tape? Mm-hmm. No, I hate to disappoint you. I'm on 9,000 hours of tapes. My office was, when I did the Diane Sawyer interview, she spoke to the FBI and they told them. They said on my tapes, there was in my office, there was 5 tapes in my office. In every place you can go in my office, there was a bug. Outside my office was a bug. My car was bugged. The only thing is, on my tapes, it was never used against me or anybody else. All you heard on my tapes was about football, baseball, what some girl's ass looks like, bullshit, just bullshit conversations. If anybody had to talk to me, my crew, they would come to me, they'd grab me by the arm, gently, and squeeze my arm pretty tight and tell me, Sammy, I need to talk to you. I would leave, we would take a walk, we call it a walk talk, and I would go in the schoolyard, there was a schoolyard near us, and we'd go in the middle of the schoolyard and we would almost literally whisper to one another. So anything that was important was never on my tapes. There was 9,000 hours of tapes. My tapes were useless. Tallies was bugged as well. We had a thing, a voice box. It's a little box. You put it on the table and you let it play. It's the voices of 1,000 people talking at the same time. So all you hear is blah, 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 blah. Along with us talking, the bug can't distinguish who's doing what. It just records everything. So when the agents got it back, all you hear is a jumble of voices dishes clanging, forks and spoons hitting dishes or glasses or whatever. They couldn't use any of my tapes. I was always aware that I had to be bugged. There was always surveillance around me, and I was always, me and my crew were always trained not to talk. We could talk about whatever. Look at Sterling, is she pretty? Oh, she's gorgeous. That's all you're gonna hear. You're not gonna hear anything devious or anything, that you shouldn't be hearing, or an illegal thing. If I think Amina's gorgeous and she's got a great body, that's all you're gonna hear. You're not gonna hear anything illegal. So you're gonna hear bullshit man talk about sports, about women, about bullshit. But anything serious, they knew to grab me, squeeze my arm, or whisper in my ear, let's talk. I knew right away. Whatever I was doing, whether I was playing cards, whether I was talking to somebody, I would stop and I would take a walk. So I was caught on tape, but nothing was, caught that in a negative way. So.
Okay, we're gonna wrap it up. We got one more super chat, and then you can close us out, Sammy.
Timothy O'Reilly says best wishes from Ireland.
Thank you so much. I love Ireland. I see so many pictures with Ireland. The grass, the trees. It looks like such a beautiful place. I'd love to go there. I always wanted to go to Ireland, to Italy. I'm on parole for the rest of my life, so I probably will never make it. But thank you so much from Ireland. And now that I'm going, this here is either years ago somebody did that to me. I would be real mad because that's like, go fuck yourself. But now it's wrap it up. So listen, adios, motherfuckers.